Hello, everybody, and welcome to our today's webinar. So this is the first webinar of our Sustainability Week, a week full of different panel discussions and webinars on the topic sustainability. Today, I'm looking forward to start this week with Daniel Salter from Amazon. He will present us something about the climate pledge. It will be super interesting, and we're looking forward to it. Daniel is engagement lead at Amazon, and in his role, an expert about on sustainability and the climate pledge. He has prepared a presentation for us about 15-20 minutes, and I also in the end have some questions for him. For the audience, if you want to ask him something, you have the possibility in the end. There is the Q&A chat, or the F&A chat, it's called, so feel free to ask him something. We have now 45 minutes, so I would say let's start. It's your turn, Daniel. Thank you.
Great, thanks Daniela, and good afternoon, guten Tag everyone. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here to tell you a bit of information about the climate pledge. So we're going to run through some slides today, and then look forward to some questions, Daniela, at the end as well. Okay, so hopefully now you can see my screen. It says welcome to the climate pledge. Okay, so why did we start the climate pledge? Why now? If you look at the science, the climate science, for example, the latest IPCC reports, it says that we have about a 66% chance of staying below 1.5 degrees global warming if we only achieve net zero by 2050. So remember, 2050 is the target date of the Global Paris Agreement that was set back in 2015. Obviously today in 2021, if we look at the chance of 66% of reaching that critical goal of 1.5 degrees, it's okay, but it's so critical we need to do more to improve the odds of staying below 1.5 degrees warming. And of course, the faster we get to global net zero, the better the chances become of us staying below 1.5 degrees. So this is some of the scientific inspiration behind the climate pledge. Now, the climate pledge came to be back in 2019 when Amazon, we were looking to step up our climate action and set our first net zero target. At this time, most companies were setting net zero by 2050 to be aligned with the Paris Agreement. But in 2019, Jeff Bezos and Amazon were engaging with Global Optimism, who's led by Christiana Figueres, the former UN climate chief, who was one of the main architects of the Paris Agreement, but is now a proponent saying companies must go much faster than the original timeline set out back in 2015 in the Paris Agreement. So from this engagement between Amazon and Global Optimism, Amazon set its first net zero target, but 10 years before the Paris Agreement to achieve net zero by 2040 at the latest. And so since Amazon set this challenging, ambitious net zero target, we've been working with Global Optimism to encourage as many other companies from all around the world, from all other sectors, to join us. And on the screen, you can see some examples of some of the companies who have joined us so far. So in addition to Amazon, we have other big names in tech, such as Microsoft and IBM. We have names in manufacturing, whether it's Unilever, PepsiCo, or Heineken. We have big names in transport, whether it's Mercedes-Benz. We have names in sort of technology and infrastructure like Schneider Electric, and etc. We even have a Spanish football team, Real Betis, because of course they have stadiums, have operations, and we welcome all companies from all sectors and organizations to join us in making the climate pledge. You'll also notice here, we have a great mix of companies who have been working on climate action for many years, and those companies who are just getting started as well. So we welcome all companies, no matter where you're at, and there's something for everyone in this global business community that we've created to work on climate action together. Okay, so what does it take to join? And there's 3 commitments when you want to join the Climate Pledge. Of course, there's net zero by 2040, but what underpins that net zero by 2040? There's 3 requirements. The first one is around regular reporting. Second one, carbon elimination. And the third is credible offsets. So I'll be explaining to you what exactly these 3 commitments involve. So the first one, regular reporting. This is the commitment by companies who sign the Climate Pledge to start measuring and reporting their greenhouse gas emissions on a regular basis. Now, this is on scope 1, 2, and 3. And just to recap what scope 1, 2, and 3 of your carbon footprint is. Scope 1 is any emissions you would generate directly in your operations from vehicles, or if you have factories that produce emissions. Scope 2 is the emissions associated from the energy use, potentially in your, whether it's offices, in your distribution centers, other facilities. There will be energy you'll be using, such as electricity, and that electricity will come with a carbon footprint, depending on the generation source. It was coal, or perhaps if it's already from renewable energy. And that's at scope 2. And then scope 3 is the emissions embedded in the products and services you use for your operations, for your business, from your supply chain, and also potentially the use of products that you may be selling on to customers, for example. So the Climate Pledge is a commitment on your entire carbon footprint, which captures the net zero aspect. It's all aspects of your carbon footprint companies commit to decarbonizing. And so the commitment under regular reporting is to measure scope 1, 2, and 3, and then report that publicly. Now, if you're a company that's already doing this, fantastic. There's no new requirement. You'll be glad to hear there's no new reporting burden to us. You just have to keep on reporting publicly, whether it's on your website, in your annual report, or potentially to another platform such as CDP. So that is the commitment around regular reporting that all companies who sign the pledge must do. The second commitment is around carbon elimination. So this is the key pillar of the pledge, where the rubber hits the road, and will be the focus of bringing all these companies together, is to decarbonize as much of your operations as possible. And this is through real business change and innovation. And we, on the next slide here, I'll give you some examples of some of the key collaborative areas that the community of these 200 companies will be working on to decarbonize their operations, such as the sourcing of renewable energy. So how do we accelerate that transition to just renewable energy sources? Efficiency improvements in the manufacturing production process, product design and material use. So particularly looking at the circular economy here. How do we create new processes and products with more of a circular economy focus? Decarbonizing transport and logistics is another big one for nearly all signatories who have some form of exposure to the carbon produced in their transportation logistics. Amazon, of course, is a very important one for us, where we're mobilizing to decarbonize our supply chain, and we look forward to working with other companies who signed the pledge on that. And last but not least is around carbon elimination of your supply chain, all the use, or your customers' use of your products and services. So this is a really collaborative topic, this last one, that speaks to that scope 3, which I outlined just before, is the carbon footprint of the products and services you use in your business operations. So you need to collaborate with your full value chain, essentially, to help decarbonize as much carbon as possible from your carbon footprint. And of course, while carbon elimination is the absolute priority, when we'd all love to be zero carbon businesses, if we could wave a magic wand, that would be fantastic. But unfortunately, even with the best available technology, we can't remove all carbon completely from our operations. So the pledge, we do recognize that to get to a credible net zero future, we need to use some credible offsets. Now, what do we define as credible? Credible here is neutralizing any remaining emissions with additional quantifiable, real, permanent, and socially beneficial offsets. So we know, for those who are familiar with the offset market, not all carbon offsets necessarily meet that high quality standard that we've outlined. The other challenge with the offset market is around the need to transform the supply. So it's great that more and more companies every day are committing to net zero. However, it's not hard to see how the future supply may not be keeping up with the future demand. And so we need to bring companies together to work on the development and transformation of a credible offset market, so that we can get to a credible net zero future that many of these companies who are committing to the pledge are looking forward to making happen. And I'll talk a little bit more in a moment around some of the work Amazon's doing already in this space. So yeah, just to shift gears a little bit, if we're going to co-found and be the convener alongside Global Optimism, the NGO I mentioned who co-founded the Climate Pledge with us, what have we been up to since 2019, since we started the Climate Pledge with Global Optimism? So back in 2019, when we were making the commitment to net zero by 2040, we looked at all of our businesses, and here you can see on the right, all the different Amazon businesses, and we asked ourselves the question, can we get to net zero by 2040? We believe we can. Obviously, we don't have all the answers yet, but we definitely know enough to get started on decarbonising as much of our operations as possible. But a couple of conclusions about what the work that needs to happen. So the first one is, we know we can't do this on our own, which was some of the inspiration where we started the Climate Pledge community, because we need all companies everywhere committed and taking climate action. And that's what we're helping to create through the Climate Pledge, as you can see, with all these companies coming together to decarbonize their own carbon footprint and supply chain. The second conclusion is the rate of innovation in low carbon technologies and services needs to accelerate. So we thought, what can we do as Amazon to help accelerate the development and adoption and scaling of low carbon technologies and solutions across our business? And the third one is, as I mentioned, there are some parts of our business where it may not be possible to eliminate all carbon from our footprint entirely. So we do recognize the need for transforming the offset market to ensure a credible supply of offsets in the future. So in line with these conclusions, we've started a couple of funds to help inspire and spearhead work in these topics. Just on that last point around transforming the offset market, we've started what's called the Right Now Climate Fund. Now, this is a $100 million fund in partnership with the Nature Conservancy, a global environmental NGO. And as the name suggests, we're investing in nature, investing in biodiversity to develop natural climate solutions that create credible offsets. And an example of this fund, a couple of months ago, working with other signatories such as Unilever, GSK, and Salesforce, we launched what's called the LEAF Coalition, which is lowering emissions from acceleration of forest finance. Now, this coalition is providing effective forest finance to protect some of the world's most threatened forests, most notably in the Amazon in Brazil. And this coalition is investing in effective forest finance programs to protect forests, and through that, avoiding deforestation and thereby generating credible offsets aligned to the criteria that was outlined earlier. So this is the Right Now Climate Fund, and it's working, Amazon's work to help transform the offset market, but it's just getting going, and there'll be a lot more work to come out of the fund in the months and years ahead. The second fund is called the Climate Pledge Fund. Now, this is a venture capital fund. It's an initial $2 billion investment by Amazon, and it's to speak to that challenge I mentioned before about how do we accelerate the rate of innovation in low carbon technologies and solutions. And so this fund, which was launched a little bit over a year ago, has been investing in startups that have the latest technology, services, products that will help us as Amazon decarbonize. So for example, one of the startups we invested in is a company called Rivian. Now Rivian produces state-of-the-art electric vehicles, and we've ordered 10,000 electric vehicles for our last miles delivery, which are being rolled out across many regions as we speak. And so that's one of the innovators that we're investing in to help decarbonize our operations. But there's also other companies. For example, there's a company who's decarbonizing cement, obviously very challenging and high emitting sector cement. So it's a technology that reduces the carbon footprint of the cement process as well. Another company who's recycling lithium batteries. So lots of relevant technologies and services which will help us as Amazon decarbonize, but we want to share these technologies and the great work the fund team is doing with signatories. And so this fund team, as well as the other fund I just mentioned before, these two funds, they sit alongside the Climate Pledge community, and they're there for signatories to learn about, potentially apply the technologies in their business, and potentially co-invest with us as well in these innovations or in these biodiversity and credible offset projects. So these are two key funds, as I mentioned, which are there to help spearhead work with implementation of the Climate Pledge. So to, I guess, summarize what is the benefits of joining the Climate Pledge community. So we're a community of companies today, over 200 and growing, who are prepared to run the furthest and fastest on climate action. Now that is the key word, is we're focused very much on the practical action that companies can take. And we do that by sharing best practices, knowledge, the latest in technological developments, and other opportunities for companies to work together. And so we have that really focus on knowledge sharing between the great diversity of companies from different regions, from different sectors we now have in the Climate Pledge community. And so when you join the Climate Pledge, you get access to the collaborative opportunities that we organize. For example, we convened signatories together recently at Climate Pledge, at Climate Week in New York. Next week, COP26 in Glasgow. We are also convening signatories there, and we have regular convenings of signatories to get together to talk about some of the key areas which I mentioned previously around energy, transport, scope 3 and circularity of materials. So these are the key areas in the future where we're bringing signatories together to help them work together with others on decarbonizing their operations and get to net zero, as well as we mentioned through the credible offset work that some of the companies are already working on. And of course, we know we're not the only show in town. There are many others also doing great work, and we're proud to partner with the organizations you see on the screen. So some of you may be familiar already with these organizations, perhaps working with them. The science-based targets, they are leading the way in setting the standards in terms of interim decarbonization targets. They're also recommended best practice for signatories when they join. You set a net zero target by 2040 at the latest, and then we encourage signatories to use the science-based target, their guidance to set interim decarbonization targets. So what would be your target to decarbonize by 2030? Would it be 50% by 2030, which is the overall decrease the world needs to make? But you can look at what your sector is supposed to do according to the science through the work of the Science-Based Targets Initiative. The second group there is We Mean Business. Been working with companies for many years and have a number of great programs such as EV100, RE100, Renewable Energy 100, and electric, electric vehicles 100. So getting companies to commit and work together on two very relevant topics, which we'll be working on. And so we'll be engaging with them to support implementation to avoid any duplication between our initiatives. The Race to Zero team, of course, a key partner around COP26. So ensuring that we're amplifying the great work of the companies who join the Race to Zero. And that's how you can actually, if you join the Climate Pledge, That is one of the ways to join the Race to Zero as a side note, just to highlight there. And we look for opportunities to partner with the Race to Zero team with the work around implementation in the months and years ahead. We also have many small and medium-sized companies who are joining the pledge, which is great to see, because often you can easily forget about SMEs and the need for climate action. But we see many leading SMEs joining the climate pledge, and we work closely with the SME Climate Hub to provide them the support and resources they need appropriate for the SME context. The Nature Conservancy, I mentioned briefly before, is the global environmental NGO who is our partner with the Right Now Climate Fund around natural climate solutions. And the last one here is Countdown. So some of you might be familiar with Countdown. They are a group that are activating consumers and everyday citizens around the urgent need for climate action. And they're our partner for communicating the work of the Climate Pledge community to the general audience outside of the typical business and sustainability landscape. And so that's it. That is a summary of the Climate Pledge. To get involved and to get started with us, please go to theclimatepledge.com or can send us an email at info@theclimatepledge.com. And on our website, you'll see all the information that you've seen today. And there's also a form to get in touch if you'd like to start the process of becoming a signatory. So I'll stop there and would love to hear any questions from the audience and from you, Daniela. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniela. Thanks for the presentation. So the first is that it's great to see that so many famous companies joined the Climate Pledge already. This is great to see. I also like to hear that that you have also the possibility for smaller companies to join, as the e-commerce branch is also well known for a lot of smaller companies, you know. My question is, so you founded the Climate Pledge together with Global Optimism. Can you explain us again, why is it so important to work together on the topic of sustainability? So you said you're stronger together, but you could also do it on your own. I mean, Amazon is huge. So why did you found this together?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a question right at the heart of the Climate Pledge. As I mentioned, touched on briefly, it's, when you're looking at the size of the challenge, there are many challenges out there which a big company may be able to work on its own. But the climate crisis is so big and needs all of us to collaborate. And that is, the science is clear. The science is saying we must, go faster. And, for companies, big, small, doesn't matter where you are, in which sector, we've all got an important role to play. So we felt, if we can achieve net zero by 2040, looking at all of our operations, all of our different businesses, as I mentioned in the presentation, we feel, other companies can join us, and actually it's going to be critical for everyone if we are all in this together. So that is the key part, the key ethos of the Climate Pledge is creating a community, creating a space where companies can come together to share best practices and solutions, the challenges, but also the opportunities. And hopefully through the work of the Climate Pledge Fund, the Right Now Climate Right Fund, and hearing all the great work that's already happening, we can help actually companies achieve this goal of decarbonisation much faster than we previously thought, just when you're working on your own.
Great. So in case in the audience we have some companies who are not who are not reporting yet, and they start now to deal with the topic sustainability, can they join the Climate Pledge?
Absolutely. So we have all sorts of companies joining. We have companies who have been working on this for many years, but even the most advanced companies still have challenges that they need to, but they also have solutions they want to share with the community. What's worked for them, what hasn't, and so those things that have worked, they actually need scale, right? Because this is a global problem and we need scale. And so actually there's an opportunity to share from the advanced companies what's worked with those companies that are just getting started. So just to recap on the commitments, when you join, it's about starting reporting, decarbonisation, and credible offsets. If you want, you can join essentially today. There will be a commitment to start reporting and have your decarbonisation plan, within, say, a reasonable period within a year. All companies must commit to that. So any company can join. You don't have to already be doing your reporting, but you have to be doing it within a reasonable period, such as a year. So we welcome all companies to join. Get in touch via the website. And then, we can support with any questions you have around what would be involved with those commitments. So yeah, that's welcome everyone to join us.
Perfect. So thinking about smaller companies, do you think they need to have a sustainability expert in their company to join, or is this really easy to join, or do you need a lot of resources to be part of the climate pledge?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have tried to put the barriers to entry as in terms of keeping it as fundamental about what's important. And that's how we arrived on, all companies must report, and there'll be a bit of work if it's your first time, but we can support with best practices and resources to help companies who are getting going for the first time on reporting. The decarbonisation piece, again, that's why we started the community, is to help provide those resources and that knowledge, which I talked about, giving companies that don't necessarily have big sustainability teams. How do you get the knowledge about renewable energy, decarbonising transport? We have a variety of communication platforms where we're sharing information about these topics. And so, no, we believe that all companies can join. And then if they are a company that is a small, medium enterprise, we have our partnership, which I mentioned, with the SME Climate Hub. And they can support as well with resources and best practices for companies who, are an SME status, but would love to, we see lots of great companies who are very committed. So you don't necessarily have to have big sustainability teams to be involved. And that's what we're here to support all companies to get involved.
Great. So there's actually one question from the audience, and the question is Scope 3 emissions included in the commitment? And maybe for others who don't know the Scope 3, could you explain it again?
Yeah, it is one to take, usually a tricky one to get your head around at first. But Scope 1 is the emissions, carbon emissions you would generate directly from your business. So if you have cars on the road or vehicles on the road, they're producing, if they're a combustion engine, they'll be producing emissions. If you have a factory or offices, they'll be running on electricity, and that electricity will be coming from the national grid. Now, the national grid will probably be, a case of using still some fossil fuel, or it will come with the carbon emissions associated to that. So that's Scope 2, and then Scope 3 is the emissions associated to the products and services. So I'll give you an example. If you're an e-commerce retailer, for example, Amazon, we buy and sell Alexa devices. We sell lots of electronic equipment, our Amazon branded Alexa devices. They will come with a carbon footprint, both in terms of the production of the Alexa product, but also then if we sell the Alexa devices, they will have a carbon footprint over the use of their life cycle. And so the Scope 3, looks at the carbon footprint associated with the production and also the use of the Alexa products that we're producing. And so as part of our net zero commitment, we've committed to decarbonize, our Alexa products, our Amazon own brand electric products as well. And that is the part of the net Scope 3 that this commitment includes. So you would, as part of your Scope 3, look at your supply chain, look at the products you're selling, and there'd be a work around engaging your suppliers on this journey as well. On this journey as well, because what we've mentioned at the start of the question and answers, you can't do this on your own. You need to engage your value chain, your suppliers, and if you're selling products with a material carbon footprint in their use stage, also engaging in terms of that piece of the puzzle as well, in terms of reducing the footprint of the customer's use as well. So yeah, really challenging topic, but hugely important that we work on this together and get as many companies and suppliers supporting in this direction.
Great, thank you for this explanation. We were talking about the resources you need to be a member of the Climate Pledge. Now I'm wondering, what does it cost to be a member of the Climate Pledge?
Yeah, so good news here, it doesn't cost anything to join. So there's no fee to join Climate Pledge. Again, we wanted to a platform to encourage as many companies to join without barriers to entry. So there's no cost to join, and all it takes to join is actually a signed commitment letter, but that will come after you've got in touch. So you first, get in touch via the website, and then we will support you with next steps and that will be a signed letter by a C-suite member of your company, confirming that they commit to net zero by 2040, and those 3 underpinning commitments of reporting, carbon elimination, and credible offsets.
So, and I learned that it's also important for companies that you communicate when you're a part of a group like Climate Pledge or something like this. So the companies who join you, do they get like a logo? They can communicate to their clients that they know that they are part of that they are carbon free or something like this? Or are there any events of the Climate Pledge?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you join and we've gone through the official signing process, there would then be option to support you with a public announcement. Now companies have the choice if they'd like to announce immediately on their own, or we have regular group announcements, usually around big climate weeks or climate events. So for example, we had an announcement around New York Climate Week back in September. And then later in this year, we've got a few big announcements planned. So there's opportunity for companies to choose, would they like to get and that's a great opportunity for them to amplify the work they're doing, their leadership, to join this high ambition coalition of companies. And in terms of, we can give you sort of a toolkits about how you promote that you've joined the Climate Pledge, with lots of social media assets to say, yep, we've signed the Climate Pledge, committed to net zero by 2040. And so there's lots of support that our communications and social media team can help you to amplify the leadership position you've taken on climate action.
Great.
And then, as I mentioned on the website, if any other questions come up, or you'd like basically to see this information, we have an extensive Q&A section on our website as well. And you can also see a full list of the 200 plus companies who have joined. And a lot more information about the progress of the community so far.
Mm-hmm. So, and one last question I see. So this is a shopper at Amazon, I guess. He is asking, there's also the Climate Pledge friendly sign at Amazon. What does that mean?
Yeah, so to get to net zero, as I mentioned, we need to decarbonize our scope 3, our products that we sell, and to help decarbonize and to make the products we sell more environmentally friendly, we've created what's called Climate Pledge Friendly. Now, this is a program. It's an Amazon program where we work with our partners, our suppliers, to recognize environmental certifications. And if you go to our website and search Climate Pledge Friendly, you'll see a list of all the environmental certifications that are making these products more sustainable across a variety of different environmental considerations. And so this enables a way for customers to easily see on the website, where they see Climate Pledge Friendly, that this is a product that has met one of these certification standards, and enables us to say this is a more sustainable product. And it's a great way to make it visible to customers, to support more consumption of sustainable products that these great companies are producing on the market.
Great. So it's like a filter to make sure that I'm buying sustainable.
Exactly. So if you go to Amazon and you're searching, you can actually go to the Climate Pledge Friendly store and just see all the Climate Pledge Friendly options, or you can search it as one of the filters when you're searching for your favorite products on Amazon.
Great. Perfect. There's one one person who wants to know again how to get in contact with you, I guess this is also in your presentation, but maybe because we're at the end of your presentation, this is a good end.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to recap, the best way to get in touch is if you go to www.theclimatepledge.com, and then you'll see there's a contact us section. And if you go to the contact us section, it will ask you to submit a expression of interest. If your company wants to start the process, it's just an expression of interest, so it doesn't mean you're committed, but do register your details, send us your registration that you'd like to get started, and a member of my team will get back to you to support on next steps. And once we're in touch, you can ask any questions about, what does Scope 3 mean for a company like ours? Or we're already reporting, is this good enough? Happy to answer all those questions. And then once you're happy to say, yes, we understand the requirements and we're clear on what we need to do, we would then issue you a letter to sign by a C-suite member in your company. And that's it. And then you join the Climate Pledge. And as I mentioned, we work on the best time to announce that your company has joined this community of 200 companies and growing every day. So yeah, look forward to any questions that come in. We've also got the email address, which is info@theclimatepledge.com, in case there's any just questions that are not about registering, as I mentioned before. So that's it. But yeah, thank you so much for having me and the opportunity to present to the group here today. And yeah, look forward to hearing from any companies who would like to join.
Thank you very much, Daniel. That's it for today, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Daniela.
Bye. Have
Bye,
a nice
everyone.
day. Bye-bye.
You too.